Good evening, everyone. This is the Air Conservation Commission meeting. It is Thursday, July 8th, 2022. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, in accordance with Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, the OML, public bodies otherwise governed by the OML are temporarily relieved from the requirement that meetings be held in public places, open and physically accessible to the public, so long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberations through adequate alternative means. This meeting will be live on Zoom. The public may participate remotely by joining Zoom, and the ID number is 840-4058-0886, or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact the Conservation Commission at concom@ayer.ma.us, or by calling 978-772-8220, extension 143, prior to the meeting. Commissioners in attendance this evening are Jen Amaya as member. We have George Bacon as member, Jess Gugino as member clerk, Mark Phillips as vice chair, myself, John Schmallenberger, as chair, and Heather Hampson is our conservation agent. And welcome to all of you. Do we have confirmation of agenda? Any changes? Alrighty, then hearing none. Is there a motion to accept the agenda as written?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It was moved by George Bacon, seconded by Mark Phillips. Do a roll call vote. Jen, how do you vote?
Aye.
George, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jess, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, passes unanimously. Next item this evening is the approval of meeting minutes for July 14th, 2022. Has everyone had an opportunity to read the minutes from July 14th? Is there any comments, questions, changes? Nicely written as always, Jess. Thank you. All right, then hearing no changes, is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes for July 14th, 2022 as written?
So moved.
Second.
It's moved by George Bacon, seconded by Mark Phillips. Jen, how do you vote?
Aye.
George, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jess, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, it passes unanimously. Next item this evening is public input for anything other than Stratton Hill. We will get to Stratton Hill public input in a bit. So if there's any other comments from viewers, listeners, questions they have, now's the time. All righty, then hearing none, then we will move on. Our first item this evening is a public meeting that we will open under the Wetland Protection Act and also under the Air Wetlands Bylaw. It is a request for determination of applicability, an RDA, a 133 Oak Ridge Drive. Veronica Berry. We have Ms. Berry with us this evening.
Hi there. I'll be representing Ms. Berry. I'm her general contractor.
Okie dokie. And sir, what is your name?
Alexander Blinn.
Alexander Blinn. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Would you please run us through what they are proposing to do?
So I have taken down an existing deck that wasn't usable, and the setup they have now, they would like to surround their sunroom with the deck. And I believe I provided heather with a rough mapping of dimensions. So in its simplest form, they would like to put a deck that'll be roughly 8 feet off the ground surrounding their sunroom. And the decking will use, instead of traditional concrete piers, I plan to use diamond pier systems where it has the 4 pins that are driven diagonally into the ground. I'm sure you're all familiar with them.
Yep.
So there will be, I guess you couldn't say it was zero disturbance, but very, very minimal disturbance to the actual earth.
Is the proposed deck larger than the one that came down?
It's smaller. It's marginally smaller.
Okay, and is there anything proposed to put underneath the deck?
No, they planned on using it as just kind of general storage, storing lawn chairs, but it'll be just grass. It'll be an open area.
Yep. And I think I see decking will be spaced so that the water can just trickle through.
Yes, I knew I interned at the DEP, and I always know point discharge is always a big concern. So the decking will be roughly 1/4 inch to allow for a steady percolation, we'll call it, instead of water collecting and then pooling and discharging.
Yep. Do commissioners have any questions or concerns? Well, we have Mr. Blinn here.
Oh, come on, you can't let me off the hook that easy.
One,
What
The
kind of,
area under the deck,
go ahead,
sorry.
George.
area under the deck, what's there now?
There's nothing there now. The deck wasn't safe to walk on, so that deck has been taken down. The dimensions for the new deck are roughly, they're 28 foot wide by 6 foot deep. I'd have to do it out because it's an odd shape, so I'd have to actually do out the square footage. But I want to say it's roughly around 300 feet, 300 square feet, but don't quote me on that.
Or is it going over existing lawn?
Yes, yeah, it's well, what's left of the lawn. There's not much grass there this year.
Okay,
But it's the what it will be over is all well vegetated. There's no loose soils. It's a very well established lawn.
okay.
And Alex, I'm sorry, you said you took down an existing deck already. This is replacing that?
Yes, yeah. The plan was to take down the deck and then mimic what was up there. But the way the old deck was secured to the house doesn't really meet building code. So we had to kind of rework the plan. And they have a sunroom with 4 sliding glass doors that open up to an 8-foot drop. So the sunroom was originally meant to have a deck. So the deck will be surrounding the sunroom.
Okay, and so was the old deck again of comparable size? You're extending it more to the pond side, or what?
So the old deck was tucked against the house. It traveled parallel with the house. It followed along the backside. As far as protrusion towards the lake, there's maybe an 8-foot difference from what was to what's proposed.
And when you say it followed along the backside of the house, is that on the driveway side?
It was on the backside.
Right, no, I understand it, but if you're looking at the house from the road,
Yes,
the
yes,
deck was along the driveway side, correct? Which would be
Yes.
I'm assuming the east side?
yes, correct. So if you're standing in the pond looking at
Yep.
the house, it was on the right side of the house.
Okay, because I'm looking at the aerial photos that were supplied with the things. I'm trying to understand where it's gonna be sitting.
So you see there's that square bump out that's I guess the most protruding part of the building. That's
Yep.
the sunroom. And that
Okay.
sunroom has all those glass doors. So they, and they have little ones. So this has always been a concern for them, not having anything past said sliding doors.
Mhm.
So the deck that was there did not protrude beyond the extent of the sunroom in the past.
Correct.
Okay, so now we're taking and we're adding 8 feet off the back side of the sunroom,
Yes.
Right.
Correct.
8 feet off the back of the sunroom, correct? Which wasn't there before.
Right.
And then the stairs also new, or are the stairs where what looks possibly like old stairs from the past? Are those being replaced? Is that what that is?
Yes. Let me pull up those stairs. Yeah, those stairs are long gone. The stairs will actually, the way I have the stairs planned, they will not go past the actual deck. They'll actually be tucked against the house. So the last step will still be behind the furthest point of the deck.
Okay, so that 28 feet that you're showing here is somewhat out of proportion in the sense that it only shows going about 6 feet beyond the eastern edge of the sunroom, but are you actually going along the whole back of the house, or is that not the case?
No, that's not the case. It's just surrounding the sunroom.
Okay. All right.
And to the left of the sunroom, that'll be a 3-foot, I mean, we'll call it a catwalk. But the larger section will be in front and to the right of the sunroom.
Okay.
So you can access that one slider and not worry about taking a header.
Right.
Jan, you have any questions?
Nope.
Jess,
Nope, it seems fine to me.
what is going to be the foundation for the stairs? Same thing?
Yes, the diamond piers. Yep.
And can you tell us roughly how far away from the pond this is?
So I measured, what did I have it? I had it at 40 feet. So the furthest protruding, the face of the deck will be roughly 40 feet from the edge of the water or the embankment.
Mhm.
And is that where the piers are, or that's the furthest part of the deck? 40
So
feet?
the piers are actually going pardon me, the piers are actually going to be set 1 foot back behind the deck. So that'll be the actual face of the deck.
Okay. Heather, you've been out there, correct?
Yeah, I've been out. So Yeah, when the application first came in for the building, there was the only addition, which we've talked about this, I think beforehand, was just the diamond piers, and then the plans changed to have that deck then come off of the sunroom, so that's why he's here before us today. I did have him put silk fence down before we even started work, just to be on the safe side, so that's in place. So there is erosion protection for the lake, and it is a well-established lawn that goes on for quite a while. And it's very slowly just slopes down to get to the water. It's not anything that I think would do anything. Whatever's coming off that deck would just fall into the lawn and go down. But there is erosion control in place at the moment.
Okay. Any other questions from commissioners? Any questions from anyone viewing or listening? What do you all think? Is this worth taking a look, or are we pretty happy with this?
I'm happy.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, great.
Anything, Mark?
No need, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of those diamond piers. I think those are,
Oh, they're the bee's knees.
well, I'm okay with it as well. I'm okay with it. So we can vote on this. Is there a motion to issue a negative determination on the RDA at 133 Oak Ridge Drive? Veronica Berry, representative is Alexander, or the contractor Alexander Blinn. I think there's no conditions to really to add. They've already got erosion controls, and so is there a motion for that?
So moved.
Second,
All right, it was moved by George Bacon, it was seconded by Mark Phillips. Do a roll call vote. Jen, how do you vote?
Aye.
George, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jess, how do you vote?
I,
Mark, how do you vote?
aye.
Chair votes aye. You probably know the drill. This will be submitted to DEP and tomorrow, Heather, or Monday?
Yeah, I should be able to get it done tomorrow, depending on how the rest of the meeting goes today.
Okay. So then you know that after 10, there's a 10-day waiting period in case they care to appeal it. I don't know why they would, but need to wait 10 days from the date of issuance, and
Okay.
then you can vote, you can proceed.
All right, wonderful.
Well, thanks very much for joining us.
All right, thank you, folks. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you, you too. All righty, that was a nice one. Our next item this evening is the public meeting that we will open under the Wetland Protection Act and under the Air Wetlands Bylaw. It is an RDA at 89 Littleton Road. Mr. Milton Raimundo, am I saying that anywhere close?
Hi, this is Milton.
So, Mr. Raimundo, can you tell us what you are proposing to do at your property?
Yeah, I would like to install a very, very small irrigation system with the same way that my neighbor installing that in his place. But this is gonna be really small. I'm gonna buy everything from Amazon, and I'm gonna only take water from the pond, and the pond is behind my property. And I already have the pump. It's a small one, like a hand one, not too big that a hand. And I'm gonna, let me say, link the pump to like roses and connect to the system. The system gonna be under the ground in my front yard and my backyard. So it's really small, just to take advantage that you have some more water for the grass, you know?
How big approximately is your yard?
I understand.
How big is your yard?
I really don't know. I think 1.7 100 square feet.
I have a copy of the plot plan that I had scanned in. And I zoomed in on it, so if I could figure out how to share the screen, I can show you guys what the plot plan looks like, if you'd like.
Yes, please.
Okay. There we go. There we go.
Hmm.
Like, should give you an idea of what the lot looks like. It's a very small front and backyard. I would say pretty much where the little pass with that limit of work is showing, it basically goes to almost like dirt with some plantings in it. And I have a picture of that too, if you guys would like to see it.
If you can show us.
Yeah. Trying my best on this, so be patient with me.
You're doing better than me. I can guarantee you that.
Okay, I'm trying. I haven't done this very often, so and I did not do these pictures right, and I apologize. But that is what you can't really see it, can you?
You might have to reshare, Heather, so that you're sharing the new window versus because we can still see the PDF.
That would probably, you're probably right.
I
Again,
think when
thank
I
you.
tried to do it, that was what happened. I didn't do it
Oh,
very
there we
well.
go. You share. It's not gonna show right. I can see right now. We're looking at it. We can try, I'll try and see if we have an idea there. It's not very good.
That looks good.
Yeah, so you can see that's what the backyard looks like. And then you go further down and I try to get like a distant shot, so you can still see where the plantings are to the deck. So it's a very small yard. The front's even probably a little bit smaller than that. The majority of the backyard seems to be the plantings that they have there, which it looks really good. And I did go over and look at Shaker Pond from the Shaker Road side to see if it was low at all. And it doesn't, I mean, as far as with everything else with the drought, it has gone down some, but I don't think it's significant enough to be worried about it going much lower with anyone drawing from it. But I did go take a look at that as well, just to get an idea to see how that pond was holding up with the drought we're having.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna put just one line in the front, one line to, and in the back also maybe 2 lines of pipes, so it's really small,
Mhm.
So are the pipes going to be put underground?
Yes, that's correct.
Heather, is that in buffer zone then, digging in? or
Yeah.
is-
It will end up being in buffer zone, the pipes being dug under. I don't know if you guys too, I read through the minutes from the last one that we approved and I don't think he dug the pipes in.
Right.
You're right. I don't think he did.
But if that's in the law, then that's kind of like previously disturbed weekends job kind of thing, right?
I don't think so.
Wait, what? Jim, what was your question?
If he's digging them in like the lawn and it's kind of like previously disturbed homeowner weekends exemption thing, like we wouldn't need to do another RDA for that, right? For the digging.
No, it's gonna be a small dig, like maybe 2 or 3 inches, just to put the pipes, I can give you the address in Amazon. You're gonna see that this is a really, really small system,
Yep. No, I think you're right, Jen. It's probably minimal disturbance. Dig it out, put the pipe in, put it right back in.
Yep.
Assuming. The pipe that's going to go into the pond.
Yeah, I have one pump and I have some roses. I'm gonna connect the pump to the rose and put in a pond and pump the water. When I finish, I'm gonna take it out to the roses and everything's gonna be the same.
And the end of the hose where it's in the pond, can you figure out a way to keep that up
Yes,
bottom?
yes,
it's not-
The pump that I bought, that are like a small device, like a small filter that go to the end of the rows. And it's a little bit heavy, not heavy, but they go down to the water for sure, you know?
Yep. Can you put a stake or a wooden stake in the pond, attach that hose to it so it's not sucking debris off the bottom of the pond or sucking the bottom?
Sure, I can for sure prevent that, you know? And it's not something fixed, you know? I'm gonna do whatever I needed and take it out, okay? It's not fixed anywhere, okay?
Okay. I think there would be a limitation if there was a water ban, a complete water ban in Ayer, you couldn't use your system.
I know,
Is that correct?
sometimes I think I received something from you guys saying about these things, isn't it?
I think it's just the current existing water limitations still apply, which is even odd days. You're 87, 89, so you would be odd days.
Yeah, and it's between no watering. It's only watering between 5 and, is it 6 and 9 or 5 and 9? 5 at night, 9 in the morning. I double checked with Dan from the DPW to see if there was any new restrictions that have been put on since the drought level increased, and there hasn't been. So I double checked that as well.
If you send me the restriction, I'm gonna follow them, okay, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't want to do anything outside the law, you know?
Thank you. Any other questions or concerns, comments from commissioners?
Nope. Are there erosion controls already in, or? So that would just need to be checked by you, Heather, right?
Okay, yeah, if you guys require them to put that, have him put those in before he digs the piping in, I can definitely go and look at those.
I was just thinking on the plot, on the diagram you showed, didn't it?
Yep.
Oh, was that old erosion?
Yeah,
control?
oh yeah, the limit, yeah, that hay bale, that's from when they did the construction of the house, sorry.
Okay, sorry.
So those aren't in place anymore. I just grabbed the plot plan from the building file because I knew I could find one there.
But it's the same thing, okay? I did not change anything in the house here,
Yeah, so,
especially
I
outside.
mean, yeah, if you guys require them to put hay bales in, I mean, the only suggestion I would make would probably to put them where the lawn ends. And that dirt starts, that'd probably be the best place to put it. It's a good limit of work right there because it's already laid out. If you all suggest that, and it probably could just be something as straw wattles there.
I don't have any particular preference. I was just responding to seeing the line on the
Yeah, the
drive.
line on there. Yeah, sorry, I just grabbed a quick plan that I could find in the short time I had this morning.
See what everybody else thinks on that.
What do you all think about erosion controls?
I don't think it's necessary.
Not for that small of digging, but if you want to do them, great.
What's your thoughts, George?
Yeah, if it's gonna be, dig it, put the pipe in and cover it right up, I don't think we need it.
I would kind of agree with that. I don't think you need erosion controls. Any other restrictions or before we move on? Okay.
Yep.
Any comments from anyone listening or viewing? Okay, very good. Hearing none. Then is there a motion to issue a negative determination on the RDA 89 Littleton Road, Milton Comundo, for the irrigation system to draw water from the pond, from a pipe that will be elevated off the pond bottom and will follow all water band protocol. I guess does that cover it?
Yep.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Alrighty, it was moved by George Bacon, and was seconded by Mark Phillips. We'll do a roll call vote. Jen, how do you vote?
Aye.
George, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jess, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, passes unanimously. So, Milton, there is a 10-day waiting period from the date of issuance to the state for them to appeal if they choose to. If you don't hear back from the state in 10 days from probably tomorrow, or Heather will let you know, you can proceed with your project.
Okay, thank you. I am for sure. I'm gonna wait.
Okay, yep, very good.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate your
Oh.
times.
Yeah, thank you for coming to us. We really appreciate it. Okay. So let's see. The next item this evening is a discussion. Request for proposals, RFP for Stratton Hill Conservation Analysis by the BSC Group. Do we have any representatives from
Mhm.
BSC with us this evening?
Hi, good evening. I'm a senior.
Could you state your name again, please? I didn't hear it. Okay.
Breaking up. a
Hi.
bit.
Hi.
My name is Matt Byrne. I'm a senior ecologist with BSC Group. And I'm happy to have been hired by the commission to peer review the conservation analysis for Stratton Hill. And have begun, but I'm actually in the mountains today, this past week, and your conservation administrator was on vacation last week, so we're not quite really underway, but we've gotten the ball rolling so far.
Great, that's great. Do you have everything that you need from us to proceed?
So the one thing that I know I was missing as of the end of last week, which may have been resolved at this point, but I haven't been able to check, is that one of the requests in the RFP was for us to take a look at the wetlands delineations as shown on existing plans, existing conditions plans in front of you in the conservation analysis, compared to the wetland delineations that were approved under an ORAD. I do not have the ORAD plans. They may have been sent this past week while I've been away. I'm not sure yet. So that was the only really critical piece of information that I was missing to go through the requests, the items of the RFP. So if Heather has been able to get those to me this past week, I should be in good shape. Obviously, I'll be looking forward to doing a site visit. It's a large site, and we'll looking forward to kind of getting eyes on the ground. But otherwise, I think I'm in pretty good shape with regard to the materials that that you folks are providing me for this review.
Were you able to get those documents to Matt, Heather?
Yeah, I mailed those out the other day, so you should be getting those soon.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, and you're away for the weekend still?
Yeah, I'll be back on the 1st.
Okay,
So I will look to schedule an on-site next week. Most likely it'll drag into the following. But one thing I'd like to know is whom I should work with for the site visit. I don't know if Heather is intending to attend, if there's a representative from the applicant team that wants to be there. Whomever needs to be involved, I'd like to make sure I know so that we can kind of all coordinate and figure out a date that works for people.
Okay. Heather, you will be doing the site visit as well?
Yes, yeah, I will attend plan on to attend that, sorry. And then I can get a hold of the engineer, for the applicant. He's pretty flexible, whenever I tell him we need to go out, so just give me a couple of days notice so I can let him know, and we'll have somebody out there if they want to be.
Great.
Any other commissioners want to be on this site walk?
Just let me know, and if I'm around, I would.
Yeah, same.
Yep,
Yeah.
same for me too, please.
Great.
So
it-
Heather, when you guys figure out a site walk date, just to be safe, I guess, do you have to post it if we have a quorum?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
you might just post it to be safe?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, well, after we find out the date, we can check with us, and if only one of us can do it, then you won't have to worry about it.
Okay. I know the requirements for that, so that's fine.
Okay. It's not your first rodeo.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
So we have a few things, a few things that I've already sort of dug into that you might want to talk about tonight. You might want to just kind of hear and then think about what have you.
And also, I think some of us might have a few things to add in to fine point your attention as well.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm happy to hear anything along those lines. I've dug into it a fair bit, and both in developing our proposal. I got pretty familiar with
Mhm.
the history and kind of what's in front of you now, but then also in the preceding week, put a fair bit of effort into reviewing documents that I do have. I did do a permitting analysis, and the couple of things that I think are most pressing are the applicant should really make sure they get a current decision from or opinion from the Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program regarding whether or not the current proposal is subject to MISA, the Endangered Species Act. I know the site, the project as a whole was subject to a conservation management permit in 2005. That expired in 2012. It is clearly, that permitting effort that happened a decade ago is over and done with. Lots of things change in the course of a decade with regard to rare species valuations, and this project is clearly subject to MISA review. So I think that the applicant should reach out to NHESP, request a formal opinion whether or not they are subject, how Heritage wants to deal with it, whether they want to just kind of reinstate the existing CMP, whether they think that it's kind of all set, or just kind of where they stand. And the outcome of that decision from the Natural Heritage Program is going to potentially trigger a MIPA process. And that's the Mass Environmental Protection Act. Vacation brain. And so if you're not familiar with that, it's sort of a lengthy review process that happens by the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. And it is triggered by any state action. So if there's any state permit that's required, a conservation management permit from NHESP is one of those permits that would trigger MIPA. If there's a state action, then we look at the threshold, the MIPA review thresholds. And this project crosses three separate thresholds, one for rare species, one for work in a ACEC, and also potentially one for land conversion. And this is something that the applicant would really need to document where they come in. But a decision from Heritage, the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program, will, in a sense, determine whether or not this project is going to have to go through the MIPA process. So that's something that I would recommend that the applicant be advised to explore now, early on, so that can kind of, that can get figured out.
Could I, just saying at the planning board meeting on July 12th, I think and Heather, you might remember too, the attorney, Bob Collins, was talking about their best case scenario was to amend and extend the CMP from 2005.
Yeah, Mr. Attorney Collins said he talked to Fishing Game about that permit, the CMP, and that's what they suggested that he do. I just made a note to get a hold of him and get something from Attorney Collins of what he stated and what they told him he could do in writing, so I can have that to give to Matt so he understands. So we have an understanding of what's going on with that process, so we know how to go on with that. So that's like the first note I've made.
Good.
Yeah, they did say they were going to extend, it was going to be essentially the same permit. They weren't going to try to re-permit the whole thing. They was going to do with what they had.
Yep.
But they were going to wait to do that until they got to the definitive stage. They weren't going to do that during this preliminary stage. So that's why I want to get something from him in writing stating that, so we know on our end what it is that they're planning on doing. And if that changes, then we can condition our now or whatever recommendation on that as well.
Good. I don't think in the long run, I don't think either of those processes are going to really feed into the bottom line analysis of the conservation analysis. Frankly, you know, that can kind of, those two processes can happen kind of separately, but they definitely bear on this. I think that makes a lot of sense that they amend the 2005 CMP. I think that I think that's a good approach for them to take. You might ask the attorney whether or not he feels that would trigger a MIPA review process. You know, I think it probably would, although I'm not an attorney. I don't know that for sure. If it triggers a MIPA review, that's fairly extensive, and it includes an environmental justice component now. Ayer would certainly has a couple of census blocks that trigger environmental justice review under MIPA. So you know, that's a process that the project will almost certainly need to go through if Fish and Game you know, kind of revives or revises the CMP. But that's all kind of, you know, going to be determined based on how that plays out. But that would be a good thing for the attorney to put some thought into and report back to you on whether or not what their analysis is. And also,
It's also likely that the open space for this project, if it goes through, would be put into the hands of Fish and Game, just so you know. And I see Ann Gagnon is on our screen, so.
Good.
From Fish and Game, so.
That's great. That's a good holder. And that's that I think that's a good outcome for the conservation component of that. So let's see, there were a few other items that we've started to dig into, but haven't made real progress yet, is the issues of blasting. And I know that's a concern. And so we're going to see what is available out there. I have no idea personally what the regulations are or what research exists relative to blasting and wildlife habitat, those kinds of impacts. So we're gonna just kind of do a research project and see what we learn and pass that along. Yes.
Okay, just one of the things to add on was also at the planning board meeting on July 12th, the issue of doing chemical blasting was raised, which I hadn't heard about before.
Oh.
I think using some sort of phosphate compound that would expand, and at any rate, given the bedrock and the slope down to Long Pond, obviously, if anybody was considering the use of chemicals, seriously, we'd want to know in advance of potential up or downsides of that. I would think downsides, but.
That's interesting. I think that would be something to put onto the applicant to demonstrate, put the burden of proof on to the applicant to demonstrate that that's not going to have impacts on the wildlife habitat along pond, wildlife habitat up on the right of way, or what have you. I'll certainly make a note of that and see if we can find anything in the literature as we go through. I'd never heard of that, so that's entirely new to me, but we'll certainly sort of put that on our radar and see if we can learn anything about it to share with you.
That was actually raised by members of the planning board, not the applicant. So, yeah.
Okay, that's great.
I'm not sure if we'd want to support that or not, but.
Yeah, whether the commission supports or doesn't, I think the education component here is valuable. Something where, like you're proposing something that we don't know about, we're not sure is going to protect the resources. We need you to demonstrate to us that what you're proposing isn't going to have an adverse impact. We need to know what is known. So putting the question to the applicant in those terms is a good way to, kind of put the burden on them to tell you what, how the use of that technology is safe for the environment, to the extent that that extends to your jurisdiction. So I think that's perfectly fair to kind of push that off onto them as a, their burden of proof to demonstrate that what they're proposing won't have an adverse impact. And meanwhile, while we're doing our research on blasting sort of broadly, we'll put that on our radar and see what we can learn on from our side, from our perspective. We do have, there's the question in the RFP regarding the right of way, the national grid right of way. One thing that strikes me in the materials I've reviewed so far is, and what I know about rights of way, is that they are quite valuable wildlife habitat features, maintained, managed for what they are. And the 2004 Oxbow report demonstrates pretty clearly with radio tag data how important the right-of-way is on the site to state listed turtles, Blanding's turtles, and the formerly listed spotted turtles, and some of the other state listed species from back in the day. That's an important feature of the landscape, and I'm a little concerned. I'm not sure that I see that the conservation analysis does anything more than add that data to the pile. I'm not sure that it presents an analysis of how the project interacts with that space. And so that's something that, I think we can bring a fair bit of information to bear on the values of rights of way managed in the way that they're managed relative to wildlife habitat. That 2004 Oxbow report demonstrates pretty clearly how important that right of way is on this particular site. So I think that, that's one thing I want to sort of dig into is how the conservation analysis addresses the value of that right of way. And so we'll do a little bit of background research as well and develop some materials for the commission to consider relative to the value of rights of way in the way that they're managed for wildlife for consideration. So that's sort of one other piece that we're digging into. And then sort of the final thing that I have on my radar to be putting real thought into is the stormwater management systems. I know that they are sort of draft and kind of hypothetical in a lot of respects. And so we won't have, we'll try to figure out how to talk about those relative to the Long Pond and wetland resources on the site, understanding that it is is a preliminary plan that's on the table. So we'll talk about that sort of in that context and come up with whatever suggestions, recommendations we can that we think would help reduce the potential long-term risk to especially wildlife habitat that those features might present. So that's kind of in a nutshell the way we're approaching this, what we're sort of working with and kind of driving toward. And so I'd be happy to kind of beyond what's already been put on the table, see if there are any adjustments or additional thoughts that the commission really wants us to dig into, or kind of throw it open from there now that you know kind of what's in my head and how I'm approaching things.
Thank you, Matt, for that. Are there questions or concerns that commissioners would like to propose to Matt while he's here? Jess?
Okay, I have a list. On the potential stormwater basin locations, there are a few on the slope down to Long Pond and one next to the right of way that it looks like they're going to have to, if they're permitted that way, remove a good many new trees, and not just growth from the last 15 years since the project stopped in 2008. And so that's one thing I wanted to see if we can fine point information on that and the impact of that, both in your research and as well as get the applicant to pin it down a bit more. There's so much bedrock in the area. I don't know if they've really done soil tests where the basins are going to be located to determine how far down the bedrock is and how much filtration that area would actually permit. Because one thing that's, I think, on a lot of people's minds is the impact of runoff on Long Pond, which has been described by a previous research study as unusually pristine for this area. And so the impact of runoff, non-point source pollution, all that is a major concern of mine.
So,
go ahead.
to that point, they will have to, this will be subject to the stormwater management standards on a DP. And so theoretically, at least, those points would be addressed in a stormwater management report. So that's something that I don't know if they've undertaken that yet. Offhand, I can't recall if that was part of the materials that we received, but I don't think so. But anyway, so that's an important thing, that they will have to demonstrate compliance with the standards. And that's, that's theoretically, that kind of resolves issues, but obviously, the theory doesn't always work out. So, but that's good to be aware of your concern.
I guess, on the one hand, theoretically, meeting the state standards would be good. On the other hand, this pond is still in pristine condition. So if the theoretical fails, then we've also, so a different question would be, if you can evaluate, are there other potential better locations away from Long Pond for them to consider putting stormwater?
Okay.
And then one thing that's been a source of discussion is the development north of the power lines versus south of the power lines because of that crossing of the habitat. And I know it was said at the planning board meeting by several people that people generally agreed that the area north of the power lines was more environmentally important than south. I just want to feel comfortable because I'm wondering to what extent juggling the value of north of the power lines versus the value of protecting that forested slope down to Long Pond as much as possible, and that's south of the power lines. I don't want to put all I just want to get an independent evaluation. Is it fair to say north is better than south, or is it, well,
I don't want to go there.
I don't want to go there. Or is there also just as much value to that slope to Long Pond, and we should figure out a way to juggle both interests?
Yeah. So, yeah, it might be wise to hold my thinking on that a little bit. I mean, I've had some thought on that, but I don't think I've had the opportunity to really dig in deep enough to the way they've evaluated the landscape to comment too much. I think that, I think it's fair to say that there are definitely ways to mitigate the impacts of crossing that power line. Potentially, there's a lot of room to look at, the mantra avoid, minimize, mitigate, right?
Yeah.
So if we can't, I know right now it's proposed that there are 2 crossings. Is there a way to minimize that to a single crossing to avoid some of that impact? With the minimization, can we talk about sort of the way that land north of the power line is used relative to land south, so that we minimize the number of vehicle traffic passages, and then to mitigate what we can't avoid, are there some structural things that we could consider to reduce the likelihood of road impacts to turtles, for instance, or amphibians or what have you, if we do have to have a crossing there. So I think there's a lot of room to discuss there, and to think, and to talk through ideas, and see what the applicant has come up with, see how they've interpreted the information that is available and what they've collected, and then kind of work with them to see if that has resulted in ultimately the right conservation analysis for the site. And I think that ultimately, at the end of the day, that's really the question. You know, a couple of questions. Does the data that Ayer requires to be collected under the 18 points of the guidelines, does that give you a body of information that an applicant and the commission can really sink your teeth into and say, yep, we feel confident that this part of the land is more important than that part of the land, and to proceed that way? And secondly, has an applicant fulfilled those requirements and then interpreted them in a way that makes sense and results in an analysis that everybody can feel comfortable with and move forward with? That ultimately, I think, is the real question that I'm hoping to answer, in my mind at least, and to try to provide you folks with thought on. So that's, I think there's a lot of material there that we need to get through, and a lot of discussion and thought yet to happen.
Thanks.
Any other questions from commissioners? George? Mark? Okay. Matt, would you stick around for a while and listen to some comments from citizens?
Yeah, definitely.
Appreciate that. Okay, before we move on to public input from Ayer citizens or any concerned citizens, I'd like to just say a few words. It's the job of the Conservation Commission to uphold the Wetland Protection Act and the Ayer Wetlands bylaws. It's not our goal to stop development, but to make sure where it occurs in our jurisdiction, that it's done in the best possible way. And this meeting we're having right now is a discussion only. It's not a public hearing. Concom's role via the zoning bylaw is to provide conservation recommendation to the planning board while they are in their preliminary subdivision review stage. We do that by reviewing the conservation analysis the applicant provides, compare it to the conservation analysis from the third-party peer reviewer, and make a recommendation to the planning board. And this is only a recommendation. It is not legally binding. Given the time clock that the planning board is under, ideally, they would like our recommendation at the end of August or early September at the latest. And most of the projects it is currently designed is outside of the buffer zone, where we have no legal jurisdiction. We have allowed 60 minutes. We probably have about 60 minutes left on our meeting this evening for public input. And to be fair, we will give 5 minutes to each concerned citizen to speak, and we ask that you respect that limit. You will be given a 1-minute warning towards the end of your time. And if there is time remaining in the hour, we can circle back to individuals who wish to speak longer. Please don't speak until you're recognized by me. Raise your hand, either electronically or physically on the camera. I will call your name and your 5 minutes will begin. All righty. Do we have any citizens out there that?
John, can I just make one thing before we start the public comment part? I did receive several comments before the meeting from various butters and organizations. I just want everyone to know I did forward all of those to the board, the ones that had specific comments. I did try to send those on to Matt as well. I met this afternoon with Annie Reed and she had several comments, and I just and I'm not sure if she wants to go through all of them. I do have the Word document that she had revised that I started drafting, but I just had this one question for Matt before we do that. The majority of the concerns, from what I understand, that Ms. Reed has, is concerns regarding the stormwater, the conservation analysis not being complete in meeting. And a lot of our comments in regards to the comment letter that it's on the town's website, so you must have seen it. dated August 18th from 21 from Dillis and Roy, with all their comments on what items they don't need to follow in the conservation analysis, as far as not including all the wetlands in the 500 feet from the property line, geological features that may be missing from the analysis and the plans, not listing all the tree species and animal species. I have a detailed list that show all this. The majority of our comments are regards to those items. And I just want to make sure if the commission wants those reviewed, if Matt has seen that letter from 2021 from in August from Dillis and Roy that has all those comments, and if there's any further concerns as far as that goes.
I'm sure I've downloaded it. I'm not sure that I've read that because that strikes me. It struck me in going through the materials that there were a bunch of questions that were not addressed, but I don't think I caught their explanation of why they weren't. So
Okay.
I'll make sure to focus on that.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
And you got all of those comments, those emails forwarded to Matt?
I forwarded the comment letter from National River Watershed because that had specific comments in regards to the analysis and the property as a whole. The commission received that as well. I got that this afternoon or this morning, and I forwarded that on this morning when I got in the office. The comments from Miss Reed, unfortunately, I sent her a copy this afternoon and I was still in vacation mode and I kept forgetting to do attachments all week long when I sent emails. So I did get her revised copy, just details her comments a little bit more, goes into the stormwater concerns, which she has, which Jess actually also shared as well. And I have those bullet points, and John, you received that email from Miss Reed later this afternoon, early evening as well. And if the commission is fine with it, I'll forward those on to Matt to review. And just double check those items. The majority of the items, I want to say a good 75% or more are regards to the analysis not being complete as far as the requirements state.
Okay, yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
if you could forward
Very
that.
good. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Who would like to go? Who would like to start first? No one. Okay.
If anybody does want to speak, they should speak now. Oh,
Yep, now
and
is the time,
Gagnon, I
so-
see.
Yes, Ann Gilligan, would you please?
Sorry about that. I was wondering if it would be possible for the public to join you when you do your site visit?
I don't think so. It would be I think the landowner would have to approve that. Am I right on that?
Yeah.
I think that would be unwieldy, but on the other hand, and if you wanted to come along, since Fish and Game would likely become the holder of the open space portion, I think that would be fine.
Well, if it's, I'll be happy to check with Bob Collins. I don't expect that he would have any issue. But if it works out that you're going on a day when I could join you, I'd appreciate that. I wouldn't want you to reschedule because of me, but.
So Heather, can you, when you find out or get a date set for the site visit, can you let Ann know?
I sure can.
That would be
Thank you
great.
so much.
Oh, not a problem.
Did you
I
have
think-
anything else that you would like to add, Ann?
No, that's all I had.
All righty, thank you very much. Who else would like to speak? Yes. Hi, I see your hand. Yep, go right ahead, please. Whoever raised their hand, please go ahead.
Hi, Annie Reed. I live at 7 Wachusett Avenue East. And I spoke to Heather earlier today about the conservation analysis. And my comments, really, I made these last year when this analysis was submitted last year for a definitive plan. And I think all of my comments still apply, and this analysis has been resubmitted for the new preliminary plan. And most of my comments are going to be forwarded to you, Matt, so you can go through them. But my sense was that in the area that's proposed for development, which is now about 18 acres, that it seems as though the applicant has not really done a thorough collection of existing flora and fauna and geographical features. And I believe because I've walked around that site and cross-country skied through it and biked across it, you name it, that there is a lot of wetland area that isn't necessarily delineated correctly. So my concerns are that I feel that a lot of the land was cleared in 2005 when he put the gravel loop road in, but there are significant existing mature trees, and I think that those should be located, identified, and cataloged so that the development can work around that. I think there's significant rock ledge features along one side of the site, and that the development site is literally surrounded by wetlands or ponds on all three sides. So, and it is also on top of a hill that is rock. I mean, this site was going to be a quarry originally, so the landscape is not very permeable, and I'm very worried about not just the blasting that will need to happen, for basements and whatnot, and changing the landscape, but also where all this water is going to go, and how it's going to be managed. And I know that's only partially the purview of the Conservation Commission, but there are retention ponds that were put in just to support drainage from the gravel road, and those do not function effectively, and there's runoff leaving the site and going down into the neighborhood next to Sandy Pond where I live. And the retention ponds that are there are filled with brown water and mosquito breeding grounds. And I know DPW did whatever they needed to do in 2005, and they permitted that, and it was installed. And I think it's a disaster. So just echoing what Jess said earlier, I'm really concerned about that. And I'm really concerned about clearing existing woodland to put new retention ponds in, because they act like a sponge and a sieve, and they filter out pollutants and all the rest of it. So
1 minute.
okay. And then there's also a lot of existing cart trails and environmental corridors that don't seem to have been identified or located. And because there's abutting town land down at the south end of the site at Long Pond, and then to the north, Rocky Hill Wildlife Sanctuary, there's a potential to, connect all these trails. And there's also all the environmental corridors for the wildlife. So the last thing I just want to talk about is that when the road was put in, there are a lot of abandoned piles of earthwork, rock, gravel, and large depressions. And I just want to know if the Conservation Commission or the reviewer is going to identify and address, how these degraded areas are going to be restored as part of this future development.
Time.
Thank you, Annie, for your input. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. I see we have some people on screen. Colleen White, did you wish to speak?
No, I'm just listening, but thank
Just
you.
listen. Okay. Marion Stoddard, would you care to speak? Nope, Bobby got me turned off.
Looks like Ken Diskin has his hand up.
Oh, there you are.
So,
Ken.
so,
You.
Mr. Chairman, so,
I'm not ignoring you.
Oh, there's Marion.
okay, so, Mr. Chairman, so I'm sorry I was, I was on mute. I've unmuted now. And and so I would like to say to the Air Conservation Commission that I strongly support all of the commission's concerns and questions that they have raised, along with their request for the careful scrutiny of any proposed developments, including roads and houses above the power line. Also, blasting of rock or the use of acids in breaking down the rock, and the assured protection of the integrity of Long Pond, which is a established state great pond. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Marion, for your comments. Ken, yes, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, could you just clarify Ms. Reed's comments and explain that an ANRAD is completed and been approved by the commission regarding her thought that there's wetlands within the work of the project? And explain what the ANRAD procedure was and how intense it was, and that you had a consultant working with you on that as well. If you don't mind.
Can you, I'm sorry, I missed part of that. Can you say that again?
There was a comment made by Ms. Reed that she walks up there and there's wetlands potentially within the project site. However, could you clarify that you have already completed an ANRAD, the applicant has, and you hired a consultant as well to supervise that part of the project, and that you've accepted the location of the wetlands on the site? If that's correct, which I think it is.
That is correct.
So could you clarify that for the public, please?
That the site has been studied, the wetland areas have been identified.
Right, and that a plan has been submitted and approved, which is the, abbreviated resource delineation of resource areas, with the ANRAD,
And
whatever the acronym.
yeah, I've been up there. I'm not a wetland scientist. I couldn't tell you what was what myself. I don't know, Annie, what your qualifications are, but we were satisfied by the analysis that we got.
Thank you.
Anything else, Ken?
And if I may just say, the ORAD, I don't have the date that you issued the ORAD, which is the Order of Resource Area Delineation, but that's valid for 3 years.
It was issued in 2020, in the fall of 2020.
Yeah, so whether there are new, whether that caught everything or not, for the site, the ORAD stands as the accepted resource areas that are subject to the Conservation Commission's jurisdiction until such time as that expires in 3 years, or that can be extended. But so that's something to be aware of just procedurally. So to Ken's point.
Kathy Hebb, do you wish to speak? Nope. Is there anyone else? And if there's not, Annie, we'll get back to you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this subject? Okay. Few more
So,
minutes.
Mr. Chairman, so I do believe that there are different individuals, organizations that have submitted their comments to the Conservation Commission that have not been read tonight. I know that the Nashville River Watershed Association is one, so I hope that that information will be shared with the members of the commission and your consultant. Thank you.
Yeah. Heather received those emails and she forwarded those emails to the commission. She forwarded those emails to Matt for him to review. So we're all apprised of all that, but yes, thank you. Annie, what, did you have something else?
Yes, I just wanted to clarify for Ken and for you. I think I'm not talking about so much what's in place from the survey that was done 2 years ago, as I am about the inclusion graphically as per the analysis requirements of including showing where the wetlands are and the extent of them, and also extending the area that's on the map to 500 feet beyond the property line, because that's a requirement of the analysis. So I noticed that the existing retention ponds are not indicated. And for instance, there are wetlands up to the west of the site that are under the power line easement that are not being shown. And there is a stream, and none of this is within, the proposed 18-acre development site, but I think it's still a requirement of the analysis. And I would think that if you are looking at the whole site in terms of figuring out where the development should go, that this is important information that should be included.
That was one of the specific points that we were requested to review. So we will do that.
Okay, and then the other thing I wanted to comment on is that there are areas that are identified as high, medium, and low priority, and I feel that those may not have been interpreted correctly based on the various environmental agency and survey maps that are referenced in the analysis. And I think that Jess also commented on this last year when there was discussion about this same conservation analysis. So if you could, Matt, just focus on, giving us your opinion on high, medium, and low priority areas, that would be great.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Ken.
So there could be, I wonder if there's some communication that's missing in the conservation analysis. So I have 3 drawings that were given to us by Dillis and Roy, me being the planning board. One is land cover and soil type exhibit plan. One is topographical exhibit plan. Another is wetland resource area exhibit plan. Those were part of the drawings that were submitted with the last preliminary plan, definitive plan. I'm not sure if those were made available to Matt as part of the conservation analysis work or not. But maybe we have more plans, to come to show what Ms. Reed is referring to. I'm not sure if that has passed through the system or not.
Thanks for bringing those up. I'll review those. Once I get back, I'll sort of pull everything together and make sure I have everything that's up to date. But that's a good thing to be aware of, just to make sure that I do have all those.
Yeah,
And everything that's on the planning board's website for Stratton Hill is everything that Matt has received. So if there's something that's not on there, then I don't have it either. So that would be fantastic for the commission to have as well.
All right, well, those are 3 pretty intense plans, which we reviewed during the the last go around on.
Yeah, and I have them in my file here, but like I said, everything that was electronic, as it was supposed to be posted on the website, and that's, so if they're not on there, we need to get those there. And I gotta find out a way to scan the ones that I do have in my file here to get to Matt, but I physically do have them. But that's where Matt got all of his information, because that's where it all was supposed to be.
I'm just not sure if these were ever electronic. They're just full-scale plans.
Okay,
That'd be great to
yeah, I have those.
to review and just make sure that I do have them.
Yeah,
And
they're from last year, so the erosion plan obviously isn't, the lots are different than what's proposed now.
yeah,
These were dated,
So,
the dates are 3/31 of 21 for the
Yep.
topography, Okay, you know what I'm talking about, Heather? Thank you.
Yeah, oh yeah, I said I have those 3 plans. And again, like I said, the erosion control plan that's referenced in the National River Watershed letter has the old plan on it. So it has all the 33, has all the development north of the power lines, which is now limited. So if that's with what Ms. Reed's saying too, is we probably need
No,
new
the-
ones of these, or if we're just something we're gonna wait on for the definitive plan, because the ones that I have are based on the old subdivision plan, not
Okay.
this new preliminary plan with limited lots.
So amongst the plans I have is not the erosion control, but land cover and soil type, wetland resource area.
Wetland
topic-
resource area, land soil coverage, yeah, I have those August 4th and August 18th.
Yeah, those are the things that should feed, that's the raw data that should feed into the conservation analysis.
Yeah.
Okay,
Not have, in many respects, be independent of, any drawing relative to a proposed road or lot layout or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah, that's the ideally how, you look at the landscape
Mhm.
as a blank tablet.
And I have these
all
plans
those
just
data.
from, I pulled them out of the old set, not from the new application that was received. So reason I have these physically with me is because I pulled them out of the old plan.
Mm,
Okay, thanks.
Okay,
Good.
Jeff,
So
should-
early next week, I will make sure to touch base with Heather and just kind of make sure we've got all our ducks lined up and that I've got everything I should have. And, we'll just make sure we're all on the same page and starting from the same starting line.
Okay, great. Jess, you had a comment?
Yeah, just a question, especially while Ann Gagnon is still online. When we did the 18 requirements for conservation analysis for open space residential development subdivisions, that was developed with the idea of creating a traditional conservation restriction on a parcel that was going to be divided, at least 50% given over to open space. This parcel is a bit different in that it's about 150 acres, 130 acres will go into open space. Less than 20 acres will be developed. And it's likely to go into the hands of Fish and Game. And you could speak to whether, what requirements Fish and Game would have for a conservation analysis. That might differ from what we required if we were doing a traditional conservation restriction held by the town.
Not sure I understand your question, Jess.
The planning board and conservation developed guidelines for performing a conservation analysis. And we include 18 different items, including what Annie was referring to as noting the area 500 feet beyond the borders of a property, documenting what that landscape is like. Would Fish and Game have the same types of requirements if you were to take this under Fish and Game's auspices as open space protected?
No, we do an analysis of the entire state and each Fish and Wildlife district. So I'm in the Northeast district. We have certain areas that long before I came to work for the state, they prioritized what we call focus areas. And within focus areas are core parcels, which where our department would like us to focus our land protection funds and efforts. And so this entire area is considered one of those focus areas. So as far as Fish and Wildlife is concerned, this whole area is very important to wildlife habitat.
Okay.
To Jess, I think part of the question you're asking is how this is one of the things that the RFP requests is an evaluation of how the conservation analysis dovetails or kind of forms the basis of a baseline documentation record for a conservation restriction. You know, there's a real difference between the process that DFW goes through to identify potential acquisitions and the process involved in accepting a conservation restriction that either costs them nothing or, you know, a nominal amount. And, you know, in the latter case, you know, for every conservation restriction is supposed to have a baseline documentation report created for it. So that the exact conditions essentially on the day of transfer are documented, so that going forward, the owner, the holder of the CR, is able to monitor on an annual basis to make sure that things remain exactly as intended in the CR. That's not an analysis process, it's a documentation process. The analysis that you request, the 18 topics, are important, really valuable information. But they form only really just a small piece of that baseline documentation component. You'd want to go forward when the decision is made that this is the area. You'd have the meets and bounds set. Of the restricted area. You'd photo document everything. You know, there's a whole bunch of steps that you take, and I've got this all put together in a report for you already, of what you need to do in addition to the conservation analysis. But yeah, it's a slightly different thing that you need to get out of the process when the transfer actually happens.
Okay.
Matt, I also wanted to indicate that right now the applicant is proposing to donate the open space set aside to the Department of Fish and Game and Feed, as opposed to a CR.
Gotcha.
And as you are aware, probably, that gives us the most control over the property.
Yeah.
But as part of the planning board process, we would, as you say, want to make sure that the boundaries are clearly marked, et cetera, so that and that the transfer take place at the beginning of the process of the development, as opposed to, you know, after all the houses are sold, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
Yeah. And if you're doing a fee acquisition, are you going to put it through the lands committee, or is this kind of you're comfortable with it?
Yeah. So I would bring it before. I've discussed it informally with the lands committee in the past. I would bring it before them formally, probably this fall, September or so, even though they might not necessarily be through the planning board process, just so that there wouldn't be a holdup. And so we, you know, I think, well, you know, by September, we should know approximately how many acres we're talking about and the location. And so I would bring that before the lands committee and get their approval then.
So
And
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
There's a potential, however slim, that the lands committee would say, no, this doesn't fit for one reason or another. This isn't an acquisition we want to pursue.
No, I don't think so. And the reason I say that is because I have already brought this project before them. And because this area is considered a focus area, and I don't think that that's likely.
Yeah, I agreed. glad to hear that, but I think, yeah, good to know that that's you're bullish on that. So
Yeah.
Anything else? Comments from commissioners? Anyone listening or viewing?
Oh, just one other.
Yes, Jess.
What sort of time frame do you think you need to do this thoroughly as you need to do?
I forget what I promised. I think you've got another meeting in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I want to be a good way down the road to having things ready for you at that point. You know, and so that's my goal is to have that all sort of pretty much, you know, ready to wrap up and deliver to you in a couple of weeks' time. You know, depending on how things go with scheduling an on-site and, you know, life, that possibly it could slip one session, but I understand your the planning board's time frame, and it's my intent to get this to you in a couple of weeks' time.
Thank you.
great.
John, if I could just one moment, I just want to apologize to Ken from the planning board. I did go to the website while you guys were talking, and the land soil map is on the website, and the wetland topography and wetland map, those three are on there. So Matt, if you need me to send you copies of those, I can try to dig through some old plans to find them, but those are on the website. So I didn't get them as part of the new submission, but they were on there.
Okay, good.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thanks, Heather. Anything else on this subject or topic before we move on?
Looks like there's one more hand raised.
Yep, go ahead, Annie. Go ahead, Ann.
I just want to clarify what Matt's role is here in terms of what he is going to do as part of his review. Are you going to identify areas of missing information or incomplete conclusions, and then ask the applicant to go back and collect the data or reevaluate this analysis? In other words, is there another step to this process where he will then have to change, revise, or add information to this conservation analysis when you're finished?
I can answer that, you know, on behalf of the commission, on behalf of myself. The intent is to evaluate the conservation analysis for its completeness relative to the 18 steps in the guidelines. There are a whole bunch of things that were requested in the RFP, the request for proposals that we responded to. So I might not rattle them all off at the moment, but you know, the big picture is to look at the information that was collected by the applicant, presented to the planning board as part of the conservation analysis, to see whether or not it addresses the 18 points of the guidelines, and whether it draws appropriate conclusions from those data. And I think that's a big one. To discuss the extent to which the 18 points constitute a good baseline for conservation restriction monitoring going forward. And then, you know, also to look at the wetlands as we discussed earlier, and there's other things that my vacation brain aren't pulling out at the moment. But you get it's really, I think at the end of the day, the way I see my role is that I'm reporting that the Conservation Commission is my client, and I'm reporting to them, the evaluation of the applicant's job in presenting, developing and presenting a conservation analysis among the various questions that the commission asked to address in the RFP. So that's really it. If they look at my results and say, okay, geez, we really feel like the applicant's done an adequate job here, go forth with blessings and all that. Or if they could, the commission could say, oh, geez, there's really a lot of things that need to get addressed here that they didn't accomplish in what they presented, and could go back and say, you really need to do X, Y, and Z. So ultimately the decision on how to proceed sits with the commission, not with me. I have no authority here at all. I'm just essentially a science advisor for the commission. I think that's how I see it. You guys tell me if you see it a different way.
I don't think I do, but.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Matt, for all your time this evening and all your hard work. Appreciate it. And we will see you in a couple weeks.
Great.
All right.
Look forward to it.
Thanks very much, sir.
Okay. Have a good night.
You too.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, our next item this evening is a discussion on the waterway sign project update. What do you got for us, Mark?
So since our last meeting, I've really just kind of stood in wait, kind of just waiting to see how things played out. I know Heather had passed along the letter. Heather, I just was curious if there was any response, any questions back. I didn't see it.
Yeah, so the
the
only
email,
two
so
that I
I'm
heard
assuming
back,
no.
I'm sorry. So the only two that I heard back from was Fire and Dan from the DPW. Fire was fine with it. Dan from the DPW did say we needed to do, and I'll have to see what kind of permit it was called. I could try to pull up the email real quick and see if it says, but it's attached to the permit that we need, an application we need to fill out. And it's a street opening permit. And he'll waive the fees for it. It's something that even the DPW does, but anytime there's work done in the right of way, that permit needs to be applied for. And he copied Chief Gill on that email, and they work, I guess, together with that. So that's fine on that end. I haven't heard yet from Charlie. I know he was on vacation, and then I sent the letter before I went on vacation, and he's going again next week. So I'll try to pinpoint him tomorrow real quick on that one, just to get an idea from him and then make sure everyone's all set. I never heard from the select board or from the town manager's office in regard to the letter I sent them. Copied them on, so I'm assuming as long as they know they're fine. I don't know if anyone wants to try reaching out to them, or I can try one more time to see if make sure that they are fine with that tomorrow as well. But that's what I've heard back from the letters that we sent out.
Okay, and with regards to
Oh, you're breaking up, Mark. Oh, you froze.
the
Yep.
street open permit. What's that?
Wait, say that again.
You kind of breaking up on us.
I said with regards to the street opening permit, I believe is what you said, Heather, correct?
I'm sorry?
I'm not sure I understand. We're not opening a street at all.
No, so to install waterway use, so according to, and I'll forward you Dan's email, it states, to install waterway signage in the right of way, you should complete a road opening permit for the work because it'll encroach in the right of way.
Okay.
So that's why he's requiring it.
So we can submit that for all sign locations?
I would assume so, yep,
Okay,
okay. So I'll make sure of that and I'll look at that application. If I need his help filling it out, we'll do that. But yes, because those signs are being installed in the right of way, it's assumed it's supposed to be encroachment. So that's why we need to fill that out. And like I said, I'll try to pinpoint down Charlie tomorrow and to see if he can give me some sort of quick answer one way or the other as well, since he'll be out all next week.
okay, great. And with Charlie, I assume that also includes the sign bylaw required permit?
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, so outside of these responses, that's really where we stand. Because again, I haven't done anything until we got kind of the head nod from everybody. So that's really where we stand. Until we know that Charlie's comfortable with that, to me, it sounds like we can't install any sign in the town quite yet. So that's sort of where we are at. That being the case, if Heather, you're able to get a response from Charlie, we then would potentially have the ability to install signs where we are not in the road right of way. So that would be something like the Sandy Pond one by the beach, Pine Meadow up in the trails. So we would have those potential to be able to do maybe this weekend if anybody's interested. Outside of that, I think we need to wait until we find out about the building permit and get the street opening permit resolved also. So I don't know if there's any other questions, but I think that's kind of where we're at.
I'd be available on Saturday after like 10 o'clock. I'm just meeting with somebody in the morning. Or Sunday as well, I guess.
Yeah, I'll be around. Let me know what's good for you.
Saturday or Sunday, George?
Yeah,
Okay.
So Jen, are you okay with holding the post while we swing the sledgehammers?
I thought it was gonna be the other way around.
Going around?
Yeah, I'll swing. I'm hit or miss this weekend, so if you guys pick a time, just let me know and I'll try and make it.
Hit or
I'm-
miss
I'm
is
the
not a good
same.
thing to say about swinging a sledgehammer.
Yeah, I'm the same as Jen, so.
I learned how to do it from watching the Three Stooges.
Yeah, I think that's an instructional video.
Yeah,
So yeah, Heather, if you wouldn't mind, maybe whatever you can find out, hopefully if you can get a moment with Charlie,
I will do my best.
simply text us, that would be fine. And with that, I will, I'll reach out or, again, on that text, then we can try and set up some time. I am pretty busy this weekend also, but I wouldn't mind getting one or two in the ground. I think that would be awesome to get us off and rolling.
Yep.
But again, we can't do anything until we get the approval from Charlie.
okay, that sounds good.
All right.
All right, very good.
Heather, I leave it in your hands and thanks for the assistance so far. Thanks.
Oh, no problem. I'll do my best to nudge him. He's been super busy, so I'll see what I can do.
All right, do we?
Somebody drop by like a dozen donuts maybe, or?
It's peanut butter cups. Reese's
Will
peanut
that
butter
sway him?
cups is his thing. But don't tell him I told you.
Anything else before we move on? Conservation Office updates.
Yeah, so yesterday was Wednesday. So yesterday, the most recent one, I went back out to Air Solar 2. The items that I asked them to do 2 weeks ago. The most important one was the culvert that was the stream crossing that was done. They had gone through and smoothed out the stone in the outlet of that culvert. They didn't do the inlet of it. So Rohit was actually out there on Wednesday with us. So I told him that was priority 1. So then we can check that culvert stream crossing to be pretty much complete at that point, once the stone is done and the grading's done in the front end and everything's done in the back end. And then they're gonna they did put erosion matting down on the slope coming into the property, along with some crushed stone to make almost like a berm going about halfway down the roadway along that slope as well to keep deterring water. So I'm actually interested to see with this rain that came through. I should have swung by this afternoon. I didn't I'll try to walk by there tomorrow to see how that looks, to see, make sure everything held up there.
Heather,
Yes.
was that matting put up by the road where that?
Yep,
It
it's
works
put
towards
up
the
right at the
slope.
road when you walk in and goes to the steepest part of the slope going down.
Okay,
And they installed that the other day. I did reiterate with Rohit the need to replace the hay bales that have sticks, stones, rocks, dirt built in them. So he was gonna rewalk that line and point those out to his gentleman on site that's been doing the erosion controls on site. And they are working on grading. They've done a lot of work with grading on site, redoing the grading for all of the storm basins. Oddly enough, one that I had a concern with in front of the panels was that I was there, that was a hole dug in. The last time I was out was completely filled in. This time, not sure what's going on there with that one, but they are doing grading and they're gonna work on more grading. And I'll be going out again next Wednesday to verify that the culvert has been worked on and the erosion controls have been replaced, and then we'll go from there to give him a new list of things to do to hopefully get done. Trying really hard to just give him some checks to do.
before you move on, I think Ken Diskin has a comment. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So of course, my favorite project. Just for clarification, and I have every document, of course, on my computer from the project and from your approvals. I believe Heather said that the work underneath the culvert or in that area involves, maybe leveling out the stone or smoothing out the stone and whatnot. The documents I have indicate that that stream bed was supposed to be rebuilt with the proper looms and seed to match the existing stream bed requirements that are in your, your decision. And that came about not just because of the decision, but because you had a, peer reviewer involved and whatnot. So the way I understood it, and it's actually in the comments from the peer reviewer that were answered by GPR and how they said they were going to handle that stream bed, because you're basically trying to duplicate, what was there and not disturb it.
Yeah,
We're all aware of the fact that it got destroyed when they did the work. But to the best of my knowledge, your approval says that they will have to replace that underneath that culvert and down through the stream bed with the appropriate materials to match a stream bed condition, not
Yeah,
just. stone condition.
yeah, I mentioned to Reed that I didn't have the plans on me to make sure that it was built to plans. There was stone placed there at the beginning. I assumed that's what it was supposed to be there, and that's shame on me for assuming. The inside, the inside the culvert itself is is dirt. It's not, there is stone in there. The issue that they're having is coming in from the top of the hill, coming up of Madigan Lane, because that whole inlet is dirty and needs to be cleaned out from whatever work they've done. It's caused channeling inside the crossing. I pointed that out to them, to Rohit, and hopefully they cleaned it out. I was hoping they did before this rain, but I doubt it. So it's just going to cause more channeling in there. So it's when I go back out on Wednesday, I'll review the plans, and I told him the same thing, to make sure that these items are being built towards the plans and to build them out, because unfortunately I didn't look before I went. Assuming that whoever had gone out before I did would have seen these items being done and would ensure they were being done to plan. So I'll verify all those, and I did tell him to make sure that the items were being built to the plan, and if they weren't, to see why. But I'll verify those items. The same thing with the grading that's going on site. I know those aren't to the plan either, and what they want to do. So we have to review those, and I mentioned that to him as well.
And Heather, don't feel bad, because we were without an agent for 7 months, 8 months. And
Yeah.
So.
It
you're
is,
catching-
again, when I
you're
just see
catching
a
up
pile,
now.
when I see a pile of stone on the outlet of a culvert, I just assume it's there to clean whatever's coming out before it went into the wetland, because the wetland's right there. So I assume that's the proper way to do it. And maybe on the inlet side, and obviously on the inside under the road, it needs to be natural bottom, which we did emphasize with him. So We'll
Yeah,
see,
no,
I'll
yeah,
verify
no,
the
no.
plans and if I have to, I'll do that. I'll try to get that done tomorrow and email Rohit to just to verify that, because I don't think he said he was gonna get to that this week, so hopefully I can nag him on that one.
It is
before-
pouring again right
going on
now,
it.
so there'll
Yeah.
be. some
Yeah,
more-
it's pouring here. That's how you get up and close my windows.
Go ahead, Ken.
And no complaint with Heather's effort. I'm very happy to see the effort that she's putting in. The documents that were approved, one of the highlights of the documents, and I see Mark looking very consciously here, was that you guys spent 2 months on the approval of the change in that culvert. You forced them to change the angle of the culvert. They had to take 2 pipes that were 48-inch, replace it with that. So you'll look, if somebody takes the time to look at the comments that came back from the consultant and GPR's responses, you'll see that GPR talks about how this is going to be not impacted at all, and they're going to put the right material back in, and the whole stream is going to grow back in just like it was before, and on it goes. So I appreciate the effort. So thank you very much.
It's taking a lot of effort just to get the smallest items done. So I try to taking those with Win, and this culvert is, I'm just hoping I can get it done in another couple weeks so I can just check something off. And now it looks like I'm gonna have to do a little bit more on it, but thank you, Ken, for bringing it to the attention, and I will verify those plans and hopefully get to Rohit with those comments tomorrow. So hopefully get that stuff worked on before they get too far into it.
And,
Yeah,
and
question.
John, I think a key thing here is when we were first looking at reports and we were first getting information back, their excuse was, well, there's been too much rain. We can't get in there. It's too messy, too sloppy. We're going to make a ton of mess. Well, we're now in a drought and they're still trying to fix this stuff. And I don't want to hear that, hay bales cost $30 a piece now instead of $3. It's not acceptable.
Yeah.
So Heather's now been out there with them a couple times. I'd say that I think we need to send them a letter, and just as Ken I described, they need to be building this the way we identified it, and not saying, okay, in their mind, we're going to put it in and it's always better to ask for forgiveness later. No, that was never the idea. And that was never the intent. And they have that understanding. So I think we need to get a little stronger with them. It has been how many months since we've had reports of such damage? This is getting a little ridiculous.
I did, when I was out with Rohit, did tell him that if he had a hard time finding hay bales, I can give him the name of at least 3 farmers. One obviously he's been going to up the street. I know one in Groton. I know at least 2 in Littleton. And other ones. If he had a hard time getting someone to do the erosion controls, that he couldn't do that, I can give him the name of 2 or 3 different companies that do erosion controls, and he said, he'd get those done. When I go back out Wednesday, and I said I want to try to swing by, see what I can see walking by the site tomorrow, because I just, with this rain, I want to make sure that channeling didn't occur on site. That's my main comment. They keep telling me that, oh, it's dry, it'll be fine, it'll hold. My concern is it's been so dry with these heavy rains we got today that it's going to wash out. And that was what I emphasized with him. I was with Rohit on Wednesday and his contractor 2 weeks ago, that it's better to replace it than have it fail and have to clean it up.
Right.
And I'm still emphasizing it with them. And I'm to the point where if I go out again on Wednesday and next week and these items still aren't done, I even explained to him too, they keep doing 8 projects at once instead of completing one and moving on to one. And he doesn't seem to understand how that's an issue. I don't know why. So my concern of the conservation is everything from that culvert, from the road to that culvert. That's the most sensitive area. Everything beyond that, most of it ends up being out of our jurisdiction going forward. But I just emphasize and make sure they're building it to plans. What those plans show, I don't know, because I haven't looked that far out, and I know they've changed as far as the planning board side goes, because the one basin is gigantic and steep slopes on it. And they were going to try to stabilize those as well. But again, everything I get told is it's going to take a week or 2 to get these items done because they're working on 8 or 9 projects at once. I was going to give them to this week. I said, I want to verify that no washout occurred today, but I was going to give them to the next meeting, the next time I went out to walk it. If items weren't done, I'm going to get a hold of DEP and have them start going after them, because I don't I can't keep talking to them about this stuff anymore. I did it to them on the 23rd with the engineer. I did it with a contractor 2 weeks ago, and I did it with the heat last week. I don't know who else to talk to and who else I can express these concerns.
So is
Without getting them
anybody
done.
Ken,
interested
you had
in-
your hand up? Go ahead, Ken.
I'd rather let I'll hold my comments till the commission is done if they have other comments on the commission. Thank you.
Okay, yep.
Thanks, Ken. I guess, John, I just want to, as Heather's just describing, it's a lot of talk. I mean, I don't know what others think. Are we interested in an enforcement order? I just throw that out there.
It's getting close. That's for sure. What do you think about that, George?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's good to get ahead of this.
Jen?
You know,
Yeah.
oh, sorry.
Yep,
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think that's our next step, right? If Heather goes back, it's pouring down rain, so it'll be a good test to see how it goes.
Yes, I
Jess?
agree.
Yep, go ahead, Ken.
I thought you said Ken when you said Jen, so I apologize, Jen.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So the only thing that I disagree with Heather on is that I do believe they know exactly what they're doing. And by intent, they're not doing it right. So I don't think there's any misunderstanding on my part as watching the project that they never intended to do it according to the plans. That's my own opinion, but I think the proof will be in the pudding. I'd request, this would be my request for tonight, if you would take note of this, that you would look very carefully at the consultant's report and GPR's responses, that you would now ask at this point in time, you would ask GPR to give you a complete list of all the changes that have happened on the job and their justification for the changes in the same vein that they responded to the consultant's requests for how the project would be constructed and how they responded to those requests in the approval process. So in essence, the same exact process, but in reverse. So we gave you the permit based on your responses to these requests for information and requests for how the project was going to be done. You responded to that. You haven't completed in accordance to that. So now respond to why you haven't done it in accordance to that in a list form. So the commission can look at it in a step-by-step basis, just like you did in the approval. So in other words, I'm asking you to almost reverse the process. Why'd you take out 250 or 300 feet or 400 feet of retaining wall? How did you think that was better than what was designed by the engineer? And whatever the multitude of changes were, I think the commission and the town, this is a project that's we just got through talking about Stratton Hill. They're not even going to be in the wetlands. These guys are wrecking 4,000 feet of wetlands and disturbing everything they can that has been ripped apart out there, and coming back and saying, oh, by the way, we think we can do it a better way. So that's my response to that. And it would be very beneficial as an abutter, and I think a project that's serious to the town, but went in under the radar. Didn't have anybody, hounding everyone along the process, except for myself. But the reason that I was happy at the end, I'll be quite honest with you, I think you've heard me say it before, and I'll say it again. When the process was finished, I was so happy with the work that you guys did, because you were so conscientious and looking at all the details. And GPR was conscientious, and it was a tremendous set of drawings. So I said to myself, wow, this is okay. You build it by the drawings, we're going to be pretty good here. And at the end of the day, the town will be happy. We'll see a great project. We'll see beautiful tree plantings and, tree box filters and all the stormwater things taken care of. And it's just changed. So I request that the commission consider my thought that they respond in a step-by-step basis in response to your approval as to why each part of the project wasn't completed according to the plan. So I appreciate the time, Mr. Chairman, and thank you very much.
In all due respect, Ken, after the site visit on the 23rd, I made that request to GPR, and I was told that they are not allowed to, they're not doing that. They will not comment on that, and had to go to who was out of the country for 3 weeks.
Right.
So when I was met with him on Wednesday this week, said that he wants to handle all direct communications. I shouldn't go to GPR.
Well,
So I don't know what to do. And then that may have been a response to the previous to Joanne and her relation. I don't know. That's just what I was told. I don't know if something coming from an actual commission member might have more standing at this point, but I tried making those comments. I tried for several weeks to get out on site before I went out 2 weeks ago after the June 23rd. And I couldn't, no one would allow me access or meet me out on site. It took until 2 weeks ago for me to first get on site, and then I was on vacation, so I couldn't go out again. Because I was told by GPR they wouldn't do that with me. So I had to go through Rohit and I did that. So I don't know what else to do. I did in the process contact the state as far as their natural heritage, their permit. And they did reach out to them to verify everything was done right. I made requests from Rohit to get me a letter from Natural Heritage to ensure that he did provide everything to them, because I don't think they're doing that right. But I did reach out to them and they commented and contacted them, because I just don't know what's going on there, and I don't know who I can contact, because I've contacted everybody out there, and I've gone out just every time I meet with somebody else or I talk to somebody else, and it's a little bit incoherent on what's going on. And I got told one thing 1 month, and then I had to meet this one, and I don't know when he will be out here again. So just so you know, Ken, I did do those things, and I did ask for those changes.
Just to reiterate, I have no issue with what Heather is doing. She's done everything.
Oh, no, I don't think you do. Just
So-
to let you know that I did ask. and I didn't
What
get a
Heather's doing.
response.
I'm just commenting in general that I think that's the approach. I don't care who you talk to, whether the owner or Calvin Moore or any partners or anything, go ahead, whatever you need to do. So it's up to you guys, and I appreciate anything you do.
What was it GPR said they wouldn't do with you?
So, because Rohit was out of the country after we met on the 23rd, I sent them all of the concerns we had as far as the issues that were listed in the special order of conditions and the changes to the plans, and contacting National Heritage with those. And I was told that they will not do those items, and I have to go through Rohit, that they strictly are just, they were the engineers for the project, and they're not doing anything anymore or something like that. They would, I'm sure I have the email somewhere. I'm sure I kept it, because I was like, oh, well, that's really helpful when nobody's around to talk to for 2 weeks.
Could
When we
we,
met out there on site,
Yeah, again, I wasn't the one that requested that, so that could have been part of it.
but they were, Calvin, his comments were, we're not there. We don't know what these guys are doing. And they're just the bearer of bad news.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how other people feel. I don't have a problem with an enforcement order with them at all.
we
Go ahead.
could, after you see what is, if you can check tomorrow and just see what this current rain is doing.
Oh, I definitely will, because I'm very
concrete
curious to see.
items. And we could draft a letter from John with an enforcement order. I would probably say what Mark was saying earlier too, is if there's washout tomorrow or obvious failure, let's just go right to the enforcement order thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any force of channeling that I see in that driveway, I'm not even gonna have to walk down. I know it's gonna have gone to one of those, to the wetlands to the left of that road.
Go ahead,
Heather,
Cal.
when you go, be sure to, take whatever pictures you can to share, please.
Yep.
Mr. Chair,
Karen, yes, go ahead.
I am willing to volunteer to go through my documents that I've saved and send copies to save time for Heather if it's cumbersome, and I know it is, since I've seen them and read them so many times. I would be willing to go back to look at the approvals and look at the set of drawings that were approved and highlight the language in either the approval, the decision, the drawings, natural heritage, whatever the case might be, that apply to and should be enforced. And I think I'm going to speculate now, so take this as a speculation. There may even be language in there that the engineers are required to do more than nothing. So
Yeah, if you could do that, Ken, that would be great, because every time I find an issue up on that site, as soon as I can spell it out in black and white for them and forward it to them, they tend to get it done. It tends to happen a day or two before I go out and see it, but it gets done.
So I'll
And
just, if no one has a problem, I'll just send it out. If I find something that, instead of bringing it up, I'll just highlight it and send it to Heather and see if it applies, if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah, if that could include that GPR comment response to the step-by-step thing during that
That's
they
easy.
responded, that would be great too.
That's a cinch, that one. Yes. that I have easily, but the natural heritage thing is very, very carefully written up, natural heritage, because they're involved with the fact that they had to give it a no-take letter or a working type letter, I guess it would be better,
Yeah.
regarding the turtles. So they basically said, any change in the job, you have to let us know.
Yeah, and I found that letter and I mentioned it to Cal when we went out on site on the 23rd. And then when I didn't hear back from anybody for a few weeks, I just got tired and I emailed Natural Heritage myself. Said there was a change to the plans and what the changes were. So I'll get a hold of Rahit and find out what he got from Natural Heritage and ask him to send me something in writing and request it by a certain date. And hopefully we get that, because I don't think he explained it to them properly. And it's not for me to call him out on. It's up to the applicant, engineer, whatever, to explain that to Natural Heritage. I can't, as a
No.
conservation, I can just raise a flag, which I did, and I still don't think it was done properly. So I will ask that for that letter from him and see, or something from him stating what he got from them. Because they wouldn't just do it per phone call. They would assume would put it in writing. If they didn't, I want it in writing, which I did ask for back in June, and I didn't get.
Yeah, through the board, through the chair to the board, and Heather, thank you, Heather. There's actually a turtle replication area that's designed to be built there as well.
Yeah, and I've told him 3 times to clean it.
So there's interesting other twists and turns here that are not even close to being built yet.
Yeah,
Yeah, so let's find out tomorrow, Heather.
Yep. I will definitely do that. I'll be out there. I'll probably do that on my way into work, because I can go that way in.
We can get a nice letter out to them and shut them down.
Thanks a
Yeah,
lot, Chris.
I mean, Heather, you and I could work on that letter, particularly you provide the data. I can wordsmith some of the things.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, we'll go look, and I don't want to have to, I mean, technically you have an open order of conditions, so I can technically go down on the site if I want to, but I try to do as much as I can. If I see erosion from the road, I'll sneak down just to see what it looks like. If I don't see anything from the road, I get so nervous with trespassing rules that I tend to shy away from those. But if it's on the roadway, I'm assuming it poured this afternoon. So I should be able to see something. So, and I'll sneak down and see if I can. And
It's
then,
not
yeah, we can grab
sneaking.
something.
It is in the order of conditions.
It is in
that-
the order of conditions that we're allowed to go on site. Yeah, we
Yeah.
are.
Yep.
So I'll definitely do that. And as far as one other item, I mean, I did other things this week too, but today I did go out to 39, if you're all done with air solar too. Yeah. Okay. 39 Groton Harvard Road. I got a phone call to go, or an email to go out and look. They had a damaged tree. And I can show you a picture of it again, because I know how to share my screen now, which is fantastic that I know how to do this feature. Where'd it go? Share screen. This one. So they had a willow tree that broke on their property, and they want to remove the tree. And it's very unfortunate. So the water, as you can see, has actually gone down quite a bit. So to take this tree out by now would probably be the best thing, with the water being low. I spoke with Zach from Flag. They'll do the project. They'll do it in the bucket truck. I told them it would have to leave the stump. There is one other tree closer to the house that is not in the greatest of health. It's a non-native tree as well, that they want to take out before it falls and hits the house. I don't have a picture of that one because it's standing fine. It's just in a little flower garden that needs to come out. And next to that is a Japanese maple that will then grow up and look nice. So there's that tree there that and I don't know if the commission, this is something we want to file an RDA on, and if so, I can get that going and have it on the next agenda.
It's not really a hazard to anything, is it?
The broken tree?
Yeah.
It's not really a hazard to anything. It's just a broken tree that's hanging there that
Should go.
It's very broken, poor thing. And they had 3 other willow trees next to it, because I asked if they were going to plant anything else there to replace it. They said no. that they'll let the other willows that are there grow up. And similar with the tree that's closer to the house, probably a good 30 feet from the edge of water, if not further than that. That flag tagged as an unhealthy tree to be removed, that they won't replace that either. They'll just let that go. But I did tell them they had to, if the commission allows them to remove them, they would have to leave the stumps. And they're fine with that.
Anyone have an issue with them taking those trees out?
No,
No,
I don't.
George?
Come away.
No,
Okay, so
And is that something you want them to file an RDA on, or are we fine with them just taking them out?
if they file an RDA, we're gonna approve it, right? We're gonna,
Yeah.
yeah, so. Let's just avoid some paperwork. Anybody have a feeling to file,
We-
have them file an RDA?
This is the sort of thing we could just do the paperwork of the administrative approval form.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's just something that Heather, you can do them.
Okay.
Sit with us and
Okay.
just, yeah.
All right. Very good. Thank you. That's about it. I mean, I have a couple other little things, but it's late. I mean, just one other small thing, but it's getting late, so that's fine. I can wait till
Okay.
next time.
If we can keep, that would be great. Any other members have updates of any kind? So we will wait to hear from Charlie if we do, and if we do, we can maybe get out and put a couple signs in this weekend. That would be great. Get that going. Once begun, half done. Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
I can,
It was moved by George Bacon, seconded by Mark Phillips. We will do a roll call vote. Jen, how do you vote?
aye.
George, how do you vote?
aye.
Jess, how do you vote?
I
Mark, how do you vote?
aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you all very much.